In this video, I want to talk about some composition considerations when you're planning out your painting. So I have a couple of examples here that I'm going to talk about, even though for the most part these aren't still lifes, so the subject matter isn't as applicable, but in talking about composition, I think, looking at kind of any well-composed or okay composed painting can be relevant. So in this one, I'm thinking about two things. The first is balance, and the second is color contrast, like color family contrast. So when you're talking about composition, you might hear people say something about visual weight. So usually things that are darker and more detailed have more visual weight. So in this painting, you have these darker colors down here, kind of in this area, and it's also the texture, like there's more detail going on, a lot more, squiggly lines. The fence comes kind of closer together, whereas over here things are more open, they're looser, and the shapes are also bigger. So when you're looking at it as a whole, the kind of the lighter section is probably bigger in this painting, but it feels heavier on this side, even though this is smaller. Like this draws the eye a lot more, and so ratio-wise, this is bigger than this, but it feels fairly balanced because the heavier side is smaller. This piece also has color contrast in terms of like the color families. So for the most part, we've got, of course, our greens and blues, and there's some gray in there. And then this hand is quite warm, so it's a big contrast. And that really draws the eye as well. So it's got the color contrast. It's also bigger sort of areas, bigger shapes. And it's also like a human element, so that draws the eye. So for the next example, I have this painting that I was working on when I was showing you guys how to use a brush and mix colors. This composition is also busy, although in kind of a different way than this one. So in this one, the sort of busyness, the variety of shapes, it's all throughout the entire composition. And the thing I want to focus on here, there's two things, which is one, lines, and how those can kind of lead the eye around a composition, and also contrast in value. So you can see these vines happening in the painting. Okay, sort of here, and up along here, and here, and then this kind of red spot that matches in color, even though, so it's not a line, but it sort of like creates this framing that happens, and your eye kind of like bounces along these lines. And maybe sometimes you're going over here, sometimes you're here, maybe up here a little bit. But it sort of nicely frames the focus of the painting, which is this really bright leaf, which brings me to my other point, which is about value contrast. So a tip that I think I have in the main presentation for this module is I tell you, like, take a picture of something and turn it into black and white, or maybe just like kind of squint and unfocus your eyes when looking at your painting, and that'll give you an idea of where it's like quite light and quite dark. So in this painting, I've got quite a contrast here between the really light value of the leaf and then the quite dark background. And I went in to these areas sort of midway through the process, I would say, and darkened the background even more, so you get that really like vivid white. This also will end up looking lighter in comparison to what's around it. Just like over here, you can kind of get this. I know with the camera it doesn't read as well as it does in real life, but this looks more pink than it would maybe on a white piece of paper, or more red, because it's got all of this green around it. So this looks lighter than it would on a white piece of paper because we've got this really dark hue here. The last thing I wanted to talk about really briefly is this little painting here. It's a little bit more close in subject matter to what you guys are doing. And I just wanted to point out two things. One is the kind of like color cohesiveness. So in my other two, I have these stronger contrasts. In this one, all the colors are within the same family. Even the gray, to make it a bit more cohesive, I added some pink into it so it would sort of match. The other thing is just in terms of composition, of like where things are in the page and the background not being really like anything in particular. It's just this like color wash. You don't even get a shadow from the chairs, and they're sort of floating in space, which is, I don't know, it's kind of fun for painting objects.